So let's get started with some general information about this event. So today we're going to be covering the admission process, enrollment. So someone asked, what should I kind of be doing? How do I know I'm on track? We'll review your next steps, what you should be working on. Then we'll hear from our financial aid office or student financial assistance office. We'll hear from counseling and advising. We want to make sure that you're prepared also for that, maybe that first meeting you have with a counselor and discuss your academic plans. And finally, we will allow some time for some Q&As, right? We want to make sure that you have some time to ask questions that maybe we didn't cover, or if we need to clarify anything for you. So let's get started with the admission process. So by now, most of you have already applied. If you have not yet applied to the college, you're okay. You still have time. If you're planning to start this summer, the last 5-week classes start next week. So you got to move quickly. If you're planning to start in August in the fall, you still have time. But again, we want to make sure that you start the process so that you're not kind of scrambling at the end of the summer. So once you submit the general application to the College of DuPage, make sure that if you haven't applied, make sure you're using your personal email, an email that you have access to. Make sure that you're spelling your name correctly so that you shouldn't use like nicknames on an application. And once you apply, you're going to get an email to that personal email that you included in your application, and it looks like what's on screen. So the email subject line is titled, "Welcome to College of DuPage." In this email, it'll give you 2 steps. Step number 1 says, set up your My Access account. At College of DuPage, your My Access is an account where you can see a lot of your information. You can register for classes, make a payment, view your grades, a ton of other stuff. But you need to set up this account. When you set up this account, it's going to ask you for your COD ID number. This email includes your COD ID number. You'll need that ID number to set up this account. When you set up your My Access account, you'll now have a username. It'll tell you what your username is. You will set up the password. You'll reset the password to whatever you want it to be. And now you'll also have your ID number. So those are 3 things that you'll constantly need throughout the process: your COD ID number, your username, and your password to log into your student accounts, right? Step number 2 says, set up and check your @dupage.edu email. So your COD email will be the same username as your My Access, but now you have to add @dupage.edu. And your password to log into your COD email is the same password that you set up for your My Access account. Please note that links are provided for you in this email with instructions. So I would encourage you to follow these links to set these both things up. It's really important that you note that moving forward through the process, College of DuPage communicates with you through your COD email. We no longer communicate to your personal email, or if you are a recent high school student, we don't communicate with your parent or legal guardian, right? All the information gets sent directly to the student, to their COD account. So that's how you kind of get started. Once you have your My Access username, password set up, there's 3 accounts that you might be asked to log into. One is called My Access, that's the one that you set up. You're checking your COD email. And then the other is called the Inside COD portal, right? These 3 accounts are located under quick links off of our main website, so that you don't always have to reference that email for the link. If you visit our main website, cod.edu, you go under quick links, all of the main accounts are located, are listed right under. The Inside COD portal, once you log in, there will be a button that says Steps to Enrollment. So for the student that was asking, is there a checklist? Great question. In your Inside COD portal, right, you use your username and password to log in. You can click on Steps to Enrollment, and all of the steps are located in this portal, right? It's broken down in order, so it gives you a quick explanation of the steps. It tells you, make sure you set up your COD email, And then it takes you through the process, exploring your payment options, understanding financial aid, completing placement tests, what's required for placement testing. Once you complete placement testing, or if you are waived from placement testing, then you can set up an appointment for new student advising. So in today's session, we're going to hear from our financial aid office, which you can reference a lot of the information in this button here. And then we're also going to hear from counseling and advising, who are the counselors that you'll meet with for new student advising session. After you meet with a counselor in new student advising, you're now ready to register for classes. So this is a common question, or sometimes students get confused applying to the college and registering for classes. If you've applied to the college, you've submitted the general application, you have an ID number, but you have not yet registered for classes. Register for classes will come after you've taken placement testing and have met with a counselor. And then there's additional steps at the end of buying and your textbooks, where to find maybe like your budget or see what's required. Meeting with your navigator. This person is here to help you. Maybe if a question comes up between the time you register for classes and when classes actually start, if something comes up, your navigator will be in contact with you, and you'll have them as a person to ask questions. And then finally, right before the semester starts, is we encourage you to attend a new student orientation. In this remote world, we know that you didn't have the opportunity to maybe come to campus for a tour. Maybe you don't know much about College of DuPage. Orientation is a great way to get familiar with campus, learn about the resources that will be available to you, and get to meet people, that you might see around campus when we go back fully in person. Students often ask, for students that have an IEP or a 504, maybe in high school, how does this work in college? So at College of DuPage, we have our Center for Access and Accommodations. What's really important to note is that students that are looking to receive accommodations at the college level, this step can be completed after meeting with a counselor to select your classes. Maybe in high school, it was the same person, and at College of DuPage, it's two different departments. Our placement tests are not timed. So if a student received an accommodation of extra time on tests, then just know that you don't need an accommodation for extra time because our tests are not timed. Otherwise, you could connect with our Center for Access and Accommodation after meeting with a counselor. You would select on their main page, there's a button that says request accommodations. You would need to submit this request in order to start setting up your fall accommodations for your classes. I'll give you a minute in case you need to take a picture of the slide for the link. And finally, I didn't introduce myself. My name is Elizabeth. I'm an admission representative. I'm really excited that you're here. I'm also a first generation student, so I know that this information is really important. We definitely want to walk with you through this process and want to make sure we answer any questions. She is behind the scenes today, but with me is also my colleague, Gosha Varias, who works with our adult population, and she will be answering questions, any questions that you submit in the Q&A box. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing, and my colleagues from financial aid will start setting up. But I also want to introduce, before we get started, I want to introduce, we have on the line some of our student ambassadors, our current student ambassadors that are actually taking classes right now, and we wanted you to hear directly from them. So ambassadors, can you introduce yourselves? Maybe tell our guests, why did you choose COD? And so maybe a two-part question. Why did you choose to attend COD? And if you can think back about when you were starting at COD, what was something that maybe you were really nervous about? And how did you work through that in your first semester at COD?
Sure, I can start. My name is Ashley Estes. I am one of the student ambassador captains. I am a incoming sophomore. I am in my third semester at the moment. And I would say the biggest reason why I chose COD was just the financial aspect for me, I wanted to not be in a huge amount of debt going out of college. So I really wanted to set up myself up financially. And then just in general, what I was the most nervous about, I think, was just the jump from high school to college, because it's a big jump. But I set myself up with Learning Commons, and they're not here tonight, but that's an amazing resource, as well as getting to know people like Ashley and Luis, who I now consider my friends. So yeah, I'll let one of them take it away.
I will follow you up with that. My name is Ashley Pearl. Yes, there are two of us on the student ambassador team. Um, I actually graduated high school back in 2016. I'm a little bit of an unconventional student. I went part-time for a while and then decided to finally start again full-time. For me, I chose the college mainly because of the flexibility to be able to do things like that. For me, I needed to work a full-time job, and so it worked well with my current life. And also, it was a lot more financially friendly than going to a four-year university at the time. So I'm excited to say that I will be starting in North Central this spring. But I really love all the help that I've gotten at the college with not only making it fit my life, but also all the transitioning from high school here and to my 4-year.
Hey everyone, I'm Luis. I'm about to start my junior year here at the College of DuPage. And the biggest reason I came here is because I'm a culinary and hospitality student, and there aren't that many culinary and hospitality schools, especially ones as good as the one here at College of DuPage. Because there are a lot of them out there. It's just the price to pay for them is so high. But here it's nice. It's nice price for me. And that's one of the biggest reasons I came here. But I remember that one of the things that I was kind of terrified of coming here is talking to people, because I'm a very nervous person. And the way I just kind of dealt with that is I put myself in a lot of situations where I had to talk to people. I got into a lot of clubs. I got into an ambassador program. And I forced myself to kind of talk to people, put myself out there. And it was worth it because I made a lot of friends, I made a lot of connections. And now I'm here. Now I'm here telling you guys about my experiences. But yeah.
Thanks, Luis, and both Ashleys for telling us a little bit about your experience. Now I'd like to turn it over to our colleagues from our financial aid office. Tori?
All right, hello, my name is Tori. I know it says Yvette. There are not two Yvettes in our office, but I am a financial aid assistant at the College of DuPage, and I'm going to be talking to you guys today about financing your education. Okay, so first we're just going to go over the general financial aid process. The first step to getting financial aid, if any of you guys are interested, is to apply for the FAFSA or apply for the alternative application for Illinois financial aid. So both of these can be done online. For the FAFSA, you can complete it on fafsa.gov, or they now have the cool My Student Aid app. So instead of completing it online, you can actually download the app on your phone and complete it that way too, if it's easier. And then for the alternative application, that one is just specifically online for now. We have the links here, and we can also link it in the chat later on tonight. After you complete the application, it'll take around 3 to 4 business days for us to receive that in our system. This is provided that you've already completed the admissions process and you've also listed College of DuPage on your application. So for both applications, you can list multiple schools. Just make sure that you list College of DuPage in order for us to be able to get your information. And then for admissions, we need you to be a student in order for us to also get your information as well. So just be sure that you complete those steps. And then once those are done, if you've waited the 3 to 4 business days, you'll receive an email to your College of DuPage email letting you know that we received it. So you'll get that confirmation from us. We only notify students through their school email, so please be sure to regularly check that for any updates, not just from our office, but from all offices in general. And then as far as the email updates go, sometimes people might have additional paperwork that needs to be completed first before they can get awarded. And in that case, we'll send you an email notice about that as well. The link will either have one of two areas for you to log into, either the financial aid self-service portal, or it'll be through Pro Verifier. That's the new system that we're using starting this year. As far as documents go, it does take around 2 to 3 weeks to fully process them before a student is awarded. So just be mindful and try to complete your documents as soon as you possibly can. And once all that is said and done, the final step is waiting for that email, again, to your COD email about your award letter that will then be also available on the self-service portal too. So now let's go over some types of financial aid funds. The first type is grants. That's kind of what everybody wants and everybody expects when applying for financial aid. And this is free money that you do not have to pay back. So if you receive any grants, just know that's given to you. It's kind of like a gift. The grants from the government based off of your FAFSA is going to be the federal Pell Grant, the federal SEOG grant, and the student to student grant. Please note that grant money is need-based. So obviously, if you have high need, you're going to be more likely to receive grant money. And not every student is going to be eligible. So maybe your friend got their financial aid package before you and you see that they have over $2,000 worth of grants. Just know that just because their financial aid looks that way doesn't mean that yours is going to look the same, because not everybody's personal information is going to be the same. Aside from the federal grants, we also have the State of Illinois MAP grant. This is a grant given to students from the state. So the state of Illinois will create a budget, which is why the amount can sometimes vary year by year. And then they'll let us know, when they have the budget and when the funds are exhausted. So in order to qualify for the MAP grant, because this money can run out, we always encourage students to get their financial aid applications in as soon as possible. Besides grants and free money, there's also student loans. Loans are borrowed funds that you do have to pay back, so just keep that in mind. Repayment doesn't have to be right away. It's 6 months after you're out of school. So whether you take a 6-month break or if you graduated 6 months later, that's when they're going to go ahead and contact you for that. So we have the federal direct loans, which are loans given to you from FAFSA. They're going to be under the student's name. So if you take out a loan as a student, you're responsible for paying that back. They're under your name. And the amounts that someone can receive will be based on what grade level you're in and what your dependency status is. And then we also have federal plus loans, which are loans that parents can apply for on behalf of a student. So those loans would be under the parent's name, and the student is free to use that, for tuition and fees. But because it's under the parent's name, normally the parent would be the one paying it back. And then aside from those two, which are the main forms of financial aid, we also have some others, which is going to be federal work study. And that's where you work on campus at COD as a student worker and you get paid, and you can use that money for tuition and fees. Military grants. So for those of you who might be a veteran, who are currently serving, or who might have a parent or guardian who's serving or who's a veteran, you can get additional funds from that as well. And then of course we have scholarships, and that's an additional kind of free money that you have to apply for, but a little bit different. So moving on, we're going to be showing you the financial aid self-service portal just to kind of give you guys an idea of what it's going to look like. So first, you're going to start on your My Access. So myaccess.cod.edu is the web link. You'll log in with your My Access username and password, and then go to My Access for Students, which is then going to direct you to the student menu that you're seeing on the screen here. And the student menu is organized pretty well. As you can see, there's a bunch of tabs with labels on them, and then underneath are clickable blue links that will direct you to where you need to go. So on the left-hand side, underneath the financial aid tab, you're going to want to click on the very first blue link that says Financial Aid Self-Service. It's then going to direct you to the Financial Aid Self-Service portal, which is going to look something like this. Normally at the top, it'll say welcome with your name and student ID number, and then it'll show you the academic year. It'll also show you your satisfactory academic progress. Basically for financial aid, just as a little side note, there are certain academic terms and conditions that do apply. So students do need to be meeting academic standards in order to qualify. So you can either be on good standing, on warning, or you could be on suspension for that. This student here is obviously in good standing. And the nice thing about the self-service portal is this checklist. So it'll tell you in real time where our office is at with your financial aid. So this person has completed their FAFSA, however, they have missing documents. So you see that message coming up, and then it also says action needed on the checklist as well. Underneath that, it's showing that we're currently in progress with their financial aid and that their award package is not yet available. So if you do have missing documents, again, it'll either be through self-service or through ProVerifier. On the self-service portal, this is what it would look like. So if you were to click on that note saying that you have missing documents, it would pull this up. And as you can see, it'll list the name of the document, an explanation as to what it is and why it's selected, and then the status. So this person, for example, has 4 documents that are requested. The status is incomplete because they haven't completed them yet, or they might not have even gotten started. So again, just be sure to be mindful of those documents. Try to check your email and your self-service portal and ProVerifier regularly if you do have documents being requested, just to stay on top of things. And also, this is just an example, so don't be scared. Not everyone has to complete documents, and if you do, that's not to say that these are the exact ones that you're going to need. This is just an example. And here is ProVerifier. So this is what the ProVerifier website looks like. Again, if we are requesting documents through this specific portal, we'll let you know through your email with a link as well. So we'll provide the link for you to go ahead and go to this website. The login information should be the same as your MyAccess username and password. So it's linked to that COD account. And so it'll take you to this main homepage here where you'll see, student, parent information, and it'll automatically pull up documents. And at the top too, what's nice is that you can select the language. So if English is not your native language, maybe you're a native Spanish speaker, you can change it so that way it's more convenient for you to read the web page. But for the documents, you would see here, what documents are requested, if it's required, where it's at with the status, and then it'll also have that upload button or the continue button for you to start and complete the forms. So now moving forward, here is what the award letter looks like, and we're back on financial aid self-service. So for the self-service portal, once you complete everything, again, you'll get that email sent to your COD email address confirming that you've been awarded, and it'll have a link to the self-service portal. So once you log in and look at your award letter, this is what the breakdown is going to look like. So at the very top, again, it shows the academic year. It'll also, again, show you your satisfactory academic progress, letting you know if you're on good standing or not. And then it's going to give you a breakdown of your awards. At the very top, it will show any grants or scholarships. So any free money, that'll show up first. And one thing to note about this is that all grant money is going to automatically be accepted. So if you're a student who gets awarded grants through COD, just know that you don't have to take any other extra steps. Because grant money is free, we automatically accept it for you, so students don't have to go through any extra steps on getting that awards. So you're all good to go on that end. And then below any grants or scholarships is going to be loans. So as you can see, this student was offered subsidized and unsubsidized loans. The difference between the two is that subsidized loans do not have interest accruing while you're in school. Unsubsidized loans do. And these are at a pending status because students either have to accept it or decline it. So we would never post loans without your consent because obviously that's money that you have to pay back. And you do have the power to, again, either accept or decline it through the self-service portal. And then just make sure if you do accept any student loans, you also complete the loan requirement checklist just below. So you have to complete 2 additional steps in order for those loans to be fully processed. And just kind of highlighting these again. So the satisfactory academic progress, breaking down scholarships and grants and loans. And now just to kind of give you an example breakdown of what it could look like getting financial aid. The reason why we included this slide is because we want to let you know that with grants specifically, the amount that you receive does depend on how many credit hours you're in. So grant money is based off of full-time status. So as you can see here for this person, for their overall grant money for fall, they were offered $3,248 of Pell Grant and $1,200 in MAP Grant. And this is based off of full-time status. Full-time for Pell Grant is 12 credit hours, which is roughly around 3 or 4 classes. And the MAP Grant for full-time is 15 credit hours. So that's about 4 or 5 classes. So this person for fall decided to take 2 classes, which put them at 6 credit hours. So 6 credit hours is not full time. So while they did receive a portion of their grant money, again, they're not receiving the full amount because they're not at that full-time status. So just keep that in mind. If you notice that the amount that you received is less than what you expected based off of your award letter, again, your award letter is showing based off of full-time eligibility. So same thing for spring, the student then decided to take 3 classes, so they did increase their credit hours. And as you can see, there was an increase in the amount of Pell Grant and MAP Grant that they received. However, again, they're not receiving the full amount that they could have potentially gotten if they were full-time. So if you're not full-time, no worries, you can still get some kind of financial aid, but it won't be as much as you could have received for that semester. And now going over some scholarships. Scholarships, again, are another form of free funds, but these are awarded based off of a multitude of reasons. So you can honestly find scholarships for everything under the sun, really. It can be for financial need, based off of academics, ethnicity, or maybe even volunteer status. There's, again, scholarships out there for anyone and everyone. And so because of this, it's important to know that scholarship eligibility requirements can vary from scholarship to scholarship. So some might require that you need to write an essay or provide letters of recommendation, but for other scholarships, they might need you to also fill out a FAFSA. So just be mindful when you are looking at scholarships and when you are applying, please be sure to complete all of the requests that they're asking for and that you are meeting the criteria. For our specific scholarships through COD, we do have them, but unfortunately for fall, they are currently closed. We open them a semester in advance. So the next time that we open up scholarships is going to be on September 1st, and they'll be open through November 1st for students to apply for spring 2022 scholarships. So once that does open up, we'll send you an email notice again through that COD email, and then we'll let you know, hey, scholarships are open, feel free to apply, and you can go ahead and get started from there. And here's a link to our scholarship website, which we can also go ahead and put in the chat for you. So if you are interested in applying for scholarships, and if you go to that scholarship website, this is what you're going to see. So it'll say College at DuPage at the top. It's going to list you some opportunities that we have with the amount of the award as well as a deadline. So the first step is going to be to obviously sign in. So at the top right corner, that green button, hit sign in, and you're going to log in with, again, that My Access username and password. And once you've signed in, when you want to apply, the first step is to complete a general application. So what this general application does is it actually filters out the best scholarships for you, the student, based upon the information that you provide. So the very first question is asking, if you're interested in study abroad. If you say no, they'll make sure that you filter out all the ones that were specifically for study abroad, so they do not show those in the scholarships that they think that you should apply for. So by filling this out, it'll make that one less step for you to do. So instead of having to look through all of our pages of scholarships, you can just go ahead and apply for the ones that we know that you're eligible for. And so now talking about payment plans and paying for college overall. So all students do have to sign up for a payment plan, or they have to pay their account balance in full after you register. So if you don't do this, you are at risk of being dropped for non-payment from the classes that you signed up for. The cashier's office will notify you of this, and you do also get a message on your My Access as well after you register. So after registration, you'll see that notice saying, please register in a payment plan or pay in full, otherwise you could be dropped. And if you wait too long, cashiers will reach out to you either through phone or text to say, hey, we noticed that you haven't made a payment or you haven't paid in full, please be sure to set something up so that way you can keep your classes. So going over some payment options, of course, if you're paying out of pocket, you can pay in full if you'd like. It's not required, but if you want to do that, by all means, you're free to do so. We also have payment plans. So you can enroll in a monthly payment plan, and that way it'll split up your overall cost for the semester into monthly installments that you'll just pay over time. And you do also get notices about this through your COD email. So if you do go this route and sign up for a payment plan, you'll also get updates as well, just as reminders. Now, if you're using financial aid or military benefits, you do still need to enroll in a payment plan. Even though you will have something coming in to help you out, we do still require that students enroll in some kind of plan just to make sure that their classes are held for them, because we can't post financial aid before the semester starts. However, if you've already completed all of your financial aid and everything is set up, same with military benefits, if everything's taken care of and that's all set up, you will be eligible for a $5 payment plan. So you're strongly encouraged to complete all of your financial aid documents at least 1 month before registering, just so that way it gives you enough time to have your financial aid set up and, to make sure that you can qualify for that $5 plan instead of being asked to pay for those monthly installments or pay in full. Aside from financial aid and military benefits, of course, there's also company-sponsored billing, 529 plans, and College Illinois. So those are other, methods of payment. For those, you're going to want to talk to registration about that so they can help you get set up. But those are other methods as well. And you can also learn more about our payment plans and payment policy if you go to cod.edu/payment policy for more information. And here is a real copy of our 2021 payment plans. I'm not going to go over everything because I know it's kind of overwhelming, but basically what this does is it just gives you a breakdown of the payment plan types that we have and the monthly payment schedule. So as you can see for the active payment plans, they have a bunch of different monthly payments, and they also have differences for their down payment requirement. So if a student has already signed up and registered for a payment plan, this was before May 31st, they would have been part of that early bird special where they just had to pay a $10 down payment, and they would have already made some payments, or they might already have some upcoming payments for that plan. If you have financial aid, as you can see, financial aid and veteran benefits, they have that $5 down payment, and then they have 2 payment installments. If your financial aid covers everything, obviously you don't have to worry about that. If you have any remaining balances, that's when they would, take out the funds. But again, you can view more on that payment policy website or payment policy page through our COD website just to kind of look more about this in depth. But overall, just some important notes to take away from this. One is how important that COD email address is. We really cannot stress this enough. This is our main form of communication, and we always let students know and keep them up to date with all information about financial aid. So we'll let you know again once we get your FAFSA or your alternative application. We'll let you know if we need any documents, when scholarships open up. We'll also let you know about our virtual sessions that we have. So we currently have the virtual FAFSA completion sessions that we're doing every so often. I believe it's like twice a month. And then we also have the financial aid webinar series going on where we have these online sessions, just kind of giving students more information about certain topics on financial aid. And aside from the COD email, also please regularly check that self-service portal too. Again, it shows you in real time where we're at. And if you have documents on there that you have to complete, you can complete them all online through that portal. So once you're awarded or whether you're still going through the verification process, it's still good to check on it. Maybe not every day, but at least frequently enough where you can, stay on top of any updates. So it is the student's responsibility to regularly check these in order to stay up to date. Of course, you can contact us directly too, but just to make sure that you're not missing anything, please be sure to check both of these regularly. And then just some other announcements that we want to make. We do have the coronavirus relief funds that we were granted, the Coronavirus Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations Act, more specifically. Basically, we got these fundings that we are directly giving away to students who have been impacted by COVID-19. And this is something that you can apply for through the scholarship website again, so cod.academicworks.com. In order to qualify for these, you have to be enrolled as a COD student. You have to be enrolled in a degree or certificate program. So you have to be degree or certificate seeking. You can't just be taking classes for fun. But this is all free money, and the amounts that you can get vary from $300 to $1,500 for the semester. So if you were impacted by COVID-19, please check this out. We still have funds available, and we're going to keep awarding students until there's no longer any funds to use. And then just a few more plugs. Again, our financial aid webinar series, the next 2 coming up, we have one about understanding your direct loans. And then we also have another one about your financial aid offer letter. These are both going to be next month in July. We have a morning session and an evening session. And if you can't make either one of those, but you are still interested, no worries. We do record the sessions and we post them online to the COD website. And we can leave links again in the chat. And again, that FAFSA completion session, if you guys haven't started your FAFSAs yet and you need help, again, no worries. Our office is always here to help you out. So you can sign up for these through that COD website again, which we can go ahead and link. And it's a 30-minute session with one of our advisors. They'll go over your FAFSA with you and help make sure that you get everything completed. So the next session coming up is July 8th, and we have open sessions from 2 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. So basically you would just pick a time, a 30-minute time chunk, and then once you select your time, you'll get an email confirmation, and then you'll also get a follow-up email with the Zoom link. And we do also send out reminders as well, just so that way you don't forget. If you need to reschedule, no worries, just let us know. Or if you think that you might need to schedule an additional session if you're not done, again, no worries. But that's all we have. So if you have any questions or anything else, please feel free to leave them in the chat or in the Q&A, and we'll be sure to answer them as best as we can. And as far as financial aid goes, feel free to reach out to us whenever, if you have any questions or concerns, or if you just kind of want to go over more stuff from our presentation today, you can call us, you can email us, and we'll be sure to also help you out too. So we're always here for you.
Thanks, Tori. We appreciate all the information. So if you haven't already, I would encourage you to either open a Google Doc, an email, and I would encourage you to highlight, copy, and paste all of the links that we are providing in the chat so that you can reference them later. We know that this is a lot of information. One of the links I provided was to our we had a Financing 101 presentation that has been recorded and posted online. That would be a great session to maybe if you wanted to re-review this information, because we know it's a lot of probably new lingo. In the interest of time, ambassadors, can maybe just one of you share what was something you did or something that you still do to kind of stay on top of your finances? Did you apply to scholarships? Can one of you maybe share your experience on that? Whoever jumps in first.
I'll go. So for me, financial aid is really important because I probably would not be able to go to college without it. I definitely go ahead and try to fill out my FAFSA as soon as the application comes out if I can. Some years, obviously, it depends on your W-2s whenever they come out, but I definitely try to go ahead and fill that out as soon as it comes out. That way I know that it's out of the way. And then from there, I make sure I put out that general app for the scholarships first, and then double check kind of later on and pace myself throughout the following months up until the due date to ensure that maybe I'm getting at least one of those applications in every 2 weeks or so, just to ensure that I am able to go ahead and get some of those things in. It can be a little bit daunting. Not every application has an essay, so it's not something that you have to worry about maybe some of them taking longer than others. But it's definitely something where you will never know if you'll get a scholarship unless you try to apply for it. So don't hesitate to try for things that you wouldn't think that you would normally get either, just because you're concerned about GPA and such, because there are so many scholarships that don't get claimed.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, so true. One thing that I just want to highlight that you kind of alluded to is financial aid processes every year, right? So if you're right out of high school, maybe at your high school, you had your counselors maybe reminding you, make sure you're filling out your FAFSA. If you are an adult student, maybe this is the first time that you're doing it. Just as a reminder, you have to submit FAFSA or the alternate application for Illinois every year, starting October 1st. Well, thank you. Next up, we want to hear from counseling and advising. We'll turn it over to my colleagues, Laura Caslow and Rosie Carvajal.
Hey everyone, I'm Laura. Hopefully you can hear me all right. I'm going to start first. So Rosie and I are both counselors at College of DuPage. Welcome and thanks for attending tonight's session. So we're going to go over some of the kind of more educational planning and advising pieces, but we're also going to talk a little bit about personal counseling and mental health services, and just sort of some tips to get you started at COD. So here is, if anyone has not been to campus, this is kind of the main atrium inside the Student Resource Center. We'll talk a little bit about the class formats and kind of what we're doing for fall to sort of keep with CDC guidelines in terms of in-person classes and gatherings. So we will go over that, but in case anyone hasn't been to campus, this is kind of the main area. So what we do in counseling, advising, and transfer. So similar to many of your high school counselors, we do talk to you about your educational plan, but it's really more guided by you as the student. So we definitely help you develop an education plan based on if you want to be a full-time student, part-time, what type of degree or certificate or career you're looking for, where you want to transfer, and everything like that. So we do not require you to meet with a counselor when you first start, but we highly, highly recommend it. And we do recommend coming to see us at least once a semester to make sure you're kind of on the right track. You can definitely see us more than once a semester. And we also don't assign you to a counselor. So if you meet with someone and you really click with them, definitely we encourage you to stay with that person. If you kind of are thinking of shopping around, you can do that too and meet with somebody else. And then we also, when it comes time for those of you who are thinking of transferring to a four-year university, we can help you with that process as well. We also do career counseling, so especially for those of you who might be somewhat undecided, or maybe you know that you want to do something in a particular area, let's say like health sciences, but you're not exactly sure what. We can help you with that as well. We can also direct you to some of the career assessments that we offer at COD and help you interpret those to see what might be good matches for you. And then counselors also teach a course called College 1105, which is a career development and exploration course. That's 2 credits and it's an elective. So that's really good for those who are just super undecided or thinking of, changing careers, changing majors, and are very unsure of their next steps. And then finally, we offer personal counseling. So we do offer brief short-term counseling. It's confidential and in a safe and supportive space. Sessions are typically about 50 minutes. And we do something called a screening appointment to kind of better assess your needs and if you're appropriate for our services. This isn't a clinical setting, and it's not to be substituted for like a therapist, but we can help students, dealing with some issues that can maybe be resolved short term, or if you need a referral for a provider, we can do that as well. And then we're also available if a crisis should arise. All right, so I know there might have been a question in the chat about like placement testing and what if I didn't take the ACT or the SAT. So this gives you a little bit of information about the reading and writing, as well as if any of your test scores can be used for math. So if you took an ACT in high school and you have a composite score of 20 or higher, you've met the reading and writing requirement. You can go right into college level English. If you took an SAT and your overall score was a 950 or higher, you can go right into college level English courses. We will take an ACT math of 22 or higher or an SAT math of 530 or higher, but they're only for select courses. So they only work for 2 types of math classes. One is called general education math and one is called quantitative literacy. So if you are, let's say, engineering or maybe business or pre-med, and you would be taking like STEM math, as we would call it, like calculus or pre-calculus or statistics, you're going to have to take our math placement test for that. So all students would have to take that unless they're doing a type of major that wouldn't require that math. So some examples might be like if you were an art major or a theater major, something in the liberal arts, maybe an English major. And that's, you know, more of an individual one-on-one conversation we can have with you when we meet with you, either over Zoom or over the phone or in person on campus to kind of discuss, you know, what placement testing you may need. You can also meet the reading and writing requirement if you have a 2.6 GPA or higher on a 4 scale. I believe the conversion is a 3.2 or higher on a 5 scale over the course of your first 7 semesters. We used to use a reading and writing test, but now we're having students take a self-guided placement test for reading and writing, and it's in your My Access account, kind of in the bottom left of the menu. So if you don't meet any of these, the ACT, the SAT, or the high school GPA, that's okay. We can have you take our self-guided placement. It's not a test. It's really like asking you some questions. It's a questionnaire or survey to let us know, you know, what might be a good starting place for you. If you might need a writing support class, or if you might need some additional reading courses before working your way up to college level. All right, so as you may or may not know, College of DuPage is a community college, and the highest degree we can offer is an associate's degree, also referred to as a 2-year degree, although for a student, like we heard from Ashley, who started out part-time, it can definitely take longer than 2 years, and that's totally okay. Some students freak out like, oh my gosh, it's my 2 years, I'm done, I'm going to be kicked out, I'm not done with my degree or my general ed classes. That's not true. Everyone works at their own pace, so however long it takes you, it takes. So the degrees that are kind of most common that we see are the AA degree, AS degree, and AAS. So the AA and AS degree are appropriate for transfer. So for those of you looking to go to a university, because they cover all of your general education classes, and they include something called IAI courses, which stands for the Illinois Articulation Initiative. All that means that you have to remember is that those courses transfer to all the Illinois public schools and almost all of the private schools. They also tend to transfer out of state as well. So students going into like liberal arts education, business, communications, history, things like that, anything non-STEM, so non-science, technology, or engineering or math, they would probably pursue an AA. And for those who are looking into like something like math or the health sciences or pre-med or pre-dentistry, that's going to be the AS degree, which is going to require same number of credits, 64, and a typical 4-year degree is around 120, so that's about half. Same number of credits, but the distribution is different. So for an AS degree, you take more science and math and less humanities and social science. We also have an AES degree, which is Associate in Engineering Science for engineering students. We also have an Associate of Fine Arts for those thinking of going into like music or art. We just didn't include all of them because we just wanted to kind of give you an overview of the most common. And then finally, the AAS degrees, those are the Associate in Applied Science. So these are, think of these as like your career degree, someone who's going to do a degree and then go directly into the workforce. So not really designed to transfer in most cases, very career specific. So nursing could be an AS degree if you plan on getting your bachelor's, or we also offer an AAS in nursing to become a registered nurse. Dental hygiene, fire science, automotive technology, cosmetology is included in there, sonography, culinary. So again, these are designed to, once you complete your degree, you can go right into the workforce with those. All right, and then finally, we do offer certificates too. So these can be added on to a degree or just taken by themselves. I actually had a student recently do this bookkeeping certificate. They had gotten a job at a family-owned office and started doing some payroll work without much experience. And then the company or the family offered to pay for them to get some accounting coursework done. So these are really for people needing to maybe like enter a career, kind of get an entry level job, maybe update their current skills if it's been a while, or maybe just add a credential or something to their current resume or their current plan of study. And so these can really range from, anything from like 6 credits to over 30 credits to get a certificate. All right, so we talked a little bit about undecided students. So if you're undecided, please don't worry. Many students are, and many more think that they are decided, but then they will change their mind within the first semesters or years that they're in college. So again, we do offer career counseling. We do some workshops for undeclared majors, and we teach the college, I'm sorry, this should say college 1105, not 1115, is a career development course that you could also take. And then, I also recommend to students, if you're interested in a certain subject and maybe it wasn't offered at your high school, take an introductory course in that. So like typically the 1100 class would be the beginning class. So education 1100 is intro to education. Business 1100 is introduction to business. Psychology 1100 is intro to psychology, criminal justice 1100, etc. So typically the 1100 is the intro course. It can be something different, but if you're kind of thinking about that, try an introductory course because you get to take some classes as electives. If you don't end up pursuing that particular field of study, that's okay. Then, you can use it as an elective and take something else. Oh, okay. Somebody asked, I'll just answer this out loud. So do we take both the math placement and the geometry placement? Which one would you know to take? Good question. So anyone who's taking the math test, take the regular math test first, which is the ALEX PPL. You only will need geometry. You may or may not need the geometry. So if you score a 46 or higher on the math placement test, you probably won't need to take the geometry test because the geometry will have been met. If you're lower than that, you may need to take the geometry. So I would definitely advise, if you have taken the math placement test and you're unsure of what to do, please make an appointment with a counselor, reach out to us when you've kind of gotten to that point on the steps to enrollment, because we can tell you what your next steps would be for the math. Good question. The reading and writing self-guided placement is optional, but we do recommend doing it. It only takes a couple minutes and it's just more of a survey than it is an actual exam or test. And remember, that's only if you don't meet the other criteria, like if you don't meet the GPA requirement or the ACT or the SAT. Good questions. All right, so just a few scheduling concepts I want to go over with you all. So it's going to be very different than high school. You're not going to be on campus, 8 to 3 every day, Monday through Friday. We also have like 4 different class formats right now. So it makes it very flexible for students. You can meet in person, and in-person classes tend to meet, so either 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes once a week, but maybe for longer hours. We have online classes that are fully online, asynchronous. So you log in when you have the time, and it's a little more self-directed. There's no set time to log in or anything like that. But there will be due dates, and it is still a lot of work. So just because it's online, we tell students, don't forget that it's there. We also offer hybrid classes, which are sort of a mix of online learning and then an in-person component. So for example, a science class might be a hybrid that has a lecture online, but you come in person to do the lab. And finally, VCM, which is virtual class meeting, which is a class that would meet over Zoom or another video platform. So you could still do it from home or from wherever you are, but there's going to be set days and times you want to log in. So again, lots of options to kind of meet students where they're at and give you a lot of variety. As financial aid mentioned, 12 or more credits is considered full-time. Classes can range between 3 and 5 credits, and then there are a few classes that are even more than that. But typically you'll see, you know, most of your classes are between 3 and 5 credits. 3 classes for English, social science, humanities, 4 or 5 credits typically for science, maybe math, even some foreign language classes are 4 credits. And then just to keep in mind, even though it doesn't seem like a lot, so 12 credit hours in person is about 12 hours on campus during the week. But for every credit hour you're enrolled in, you'll spend about double that or maybe even triple that outside of class studying or prepping. So if you're in class 12 hours a week, expect to spend around 24, even more hours beyond that outside of class doing work. So for those of you thinking of working full-time and being a full-time student, I've seen a few people pull it off, but not very many. It's very difficult to be able to keep up with demands of a full-time student while you're working full-time. And then just remember, no one size fits all. So just because your best friend is a full-time student taking 5 classes, that might not work for you. Maybe you need to take fewer classes because you're working or you're helping with, you know, younger siblings or other things. Maybe you prefer to learn in person for certain classes, but you think you could do some classes online so that you can, you know, drive less to campus or something like that. So everyone's schedule is going to look different and should be customized to them and their needs. All right. Tips for building your schedule. So again, the choice is yours. Make sure you know your options. You want to create a schedule that's going to work with your work schedule, work with, you know, talk it over with your family or whoever you're living with. Definitely recommend taking math in your first semester or at least the first year. So it's in the first 2 semesters, because so many students leave it till the end. Then they have forgotten what they have learned in high school math. And then it ends up, it can end up preventing them from or delaying their transfer or delaying their degree, because sometimes you have to take a few more math classes before the one that counts for your major degree. We recommend registering early because some classes do fill up fast, and we want to make sure you get the schedule you want, and be honest with yourself about, you know, time management, what you're capable of doing. So again, if you know that you really need to work a lot, then, you know, start small, start with a few classes and see how it goes, and we can always ramp it up. You can always go from part-time status to full-time the next semester. And then finally, some expectations from you. So again, as I mentioned, the counseling relationship is really guided by you. So we do not require you to come see us. We're not gonna like check up on you or check your grades. I used to be a high school counselor, so I remember tracking down my students who were getting D's and F's and calling home. We are not going to do that. You are in charge of your progress and your classes and keeping up. So definitely get in the habit of attending and participating or logging in if you're doing online. Communicate with your instructors, make sure you're reading the class syllabus, make sure you're managing your time. All right, and now I'm going to turn it over to Rosie, also from the counseling department, who's going to talk a little bit about well-being and mental health.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosie. And I'm a counselor here at the college. I just want to acknowledge that it is 7 o'clock, so if you have to log off, we completely understand. We just have a lot of great information that we want to share with you and make sure that you're aware of. If you do have to log off, it is being recorded, so it will be posted on COD's website, and you can view it a little bit later. But thank you all for being here. I will be talking about the importance of your well-being and why it is so important. If there's anything that we can take away from the past couple of months, is that the only thing that's constant is change, right? It's really important to recognize that as a college student, it's really a time for all these mixed emotions. You're going to learn a lot about yourself. You will engage in experiences that are challenging, that are difficult, complex, and in many ways transformative. And it's crucial that, you know, very early on in this college journey that you define what well-being looks for you. Laura, can you advance to the next slide? Thank you. One of the takeaways from today's presentation that I really want each and every one of you to walk away with is it's so important for you to create your network. It's important that you very early on in the process, you identify allies on campus, who you can go to from every department. Create your campus community. Build strong interdependent relationships with staff from each of these departments. It's important to really be involved and take ownership of your education. So as Laura said, a lot of your college experience is guided by you, but we're here to really help you through that process. Laura and I both work in counseling, advising, and transfer centers. So now you know we can help you create your educational plan for every semester, make sure that you're taking the right classes. Once you're getting ready to transfer, the navigators are student support specialists. So if you forget a lot of what we said, you can always reach out to them. There will be a navigator that will be reaching out to you as a new student. So if there's something you forget about this presentation or have questions on, you can just ask them, and then they will then direct you to the right person on campus. My colleagues from financial aid already talked a lot about all the different services that they offer. There's also access and accommodations. I know Elizabeth mentioned this a little bit earlier on in the presentation. If you had a 504 plan or an IEP plan in high school, you can request accommodations. Also, if throughout the semester you experience an illness or an injury, or a medical condition, you can always reach out to Access and Accommodations for any accommodations you might need. Career Services, it's also a great department to know on campus. They will help students with internships. They also review resumes. They do mock interviews. So another great resource for you to have. And then Student Life, just getting connected. We have over 100 student organizations to meet different student needs. So definitely something to look into and take part in. For the family members that are here, thank you so much for showing interest. I'm sure that means a lot to your student. It's important that you learn about the college experience and what your student will be experiencing. So we thank you for really being part of their college journey today. It's important to remember to be patient, right? There's going to be a huge learning curve for everyone. I myself was a first generation college student, and I had to just have this constant communication with my parents, letting them know and having them understand why it wasn't only just being on campus for my classes, it was also staying on campus to minimize distractions that were at home, in order for me to get my homework done. So just make sure that you're talking to your student, that you're asking questions, and just have that communication. So encourage dialogue to understand what it is that they're learning about and what they're experiencing as their college journey at COD or at another college university. This is what I really want to focus on. So your well-being is really important to all of us in counseling. And I don't want to speak for all staff and faculty, but we all, if there's one thing that we want for each and every one of our students is for them just to be well and do well in all of their coursework. And a lot of this creating schedules and having a routine is really helpful for students. When I work with students, a simple question sometimes that I ask is, are you eating enough? Are you getting sleep? Sometimes we just have all these different things that we're working on. We're a student, we're an employee, we're a daughter, we're a son. We have a significant other. We have different roles. We might be, parents. There's different roles that we engage on a daily basis, and we just forget to just cultivate compassion for ourselves. So just get a lot of sleep, make sure that you're eating, make sure that you're going out for a walk, getting some physical activity in. And one thing that I can also encourage students to do is just have some self-affirmations every day. Be kind to yourself, and see if that helps you just create this better self-care plan for you. And then just as important is to make sure that you're checking in with someone and just talking about your feelings. Let them know how you're doing or any questions that you may have. There's a lot of new information that is learned with being a college student. Common concerns for college students. There's a lot that students have to juggle. So it's important to find this balance with all of these competing needs. We have the demands of academics, we have the demands of work, family, social life, and a lot is also really getting to know ourselves. So a lot of this stress will sometimes show up in the classroom. And if you feel that any of these issues are affecting your academic progress, you can reach out to us and we will sit down and talk it through. You might be wondering why it's so important and why we're interested in your well-being. The effect of mental health affects your academic success. So we found that students who may experience stress or anxiety or just experiencing some family problems or just struggling to get by, they have lower grades in their exams or in their coursework. There's a higher frequency of incompletes or a higher frequency of dropping out. And that's important to us because that will, if you are a financial aid recipient, that does affect your financial aid eligibility. So we do ask that if, I'm sorry, you guys can probably hear that in the background. If you are experiencing any hardships, to please reach out to us and we will sit down and have a conversation with you. Students seek help for a variety of reasons, including self-improvement or just really managing life stressors. You don't have to be in a crisis to seek help, and remember that it's confidential. We're bound by a professional code of ethics. It's not connected to your academic record, so you don't have to worry about it being on your transcript. And privacy is really important to us. So we want you to feel comfortable what you're sharing with us. We fully understand that it's sensitive information and we will never force you to share anything that you feel uncomfortable sharing. So we will always have you lead the conversation, but just know that we are here to help and we want you to seek out services if you need them. Your mental health is extremely important to us. So research shows that different groups of students, first generation college students being one of them, face many obstacles in their just college journey. So first generation students experience at a higher level anxiety. And a lot of this is just because they feel responsible. They have this responsibility to help their families in addition to being a student. So again, your well-being is really important to us. So reach out to us if you need to. And like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a crisis for you to reach out to us. It's just if you want to check in with someone, we are here for you. Lastly, I want you guys to just remember that we're here to help you navigate the college experience. We want you to feel understood and we want you to feel connected. So now you know Laura and I in counseling, you can always reach out to us. And like Laura said, you can also shop around. We have plenty of counselors that are eager to meet with each and every one of you. And then we do, everything, the career counseling, personal counseling, educational planning. We help students with the transfer process. So we are here to help you and we want you to just really learn how to advocate for yourself, and we want to empower you to reach out to all the different areas at COD to get the help that you need. And thank you. I'll go ahead and pass it along to Elizabeth.
Thanks, Rosie. Thanks everyone for staying. We have just a couple of closing remarks, and then I promise we're going to let you go. One really frequent question from students that maybe Rosie or Laura can answer is, do they have an assigned counselor? Right? This is a very common question. Who's their counselor? Do one of you want to answer that?
Yeah, that's a great question. So students do not have an assigned counselor. We do recommend though that if you meet with someone and you like them, I always encourage that you stick with that person, let that be your person through your entire journey at COD. It's just helpful. You get to know us, we get to know you, and that way you don't have to explain yourself or your situation every time. So if you like the person that you meet with, stick with them. If you don't, you can always shop around. There's plenty of us to go around.
The only exceptions are sometimes we do have counselors who have sort of designated student populations. So we have counselors who are very skilled and knowledgeable about working with veterans. So we have 4 counselors that work with veterans. We have 3 counselors that work with athletes because they kind of know all the eligibility requirements. We have a counselor who works with students with disabilities, although all counselors are able to do that. And then you have Rosie and I and a few other counselors who are Spanish speaking. So we don't assign you, but there may be circumstances where, you would go with someone because they kind of have a population. They've worked with, your population and can best help you.
Thank you. So we have just a couple of tips, and then I'm going to have our student ambassadors have the last word, but this is your time. So if you have any questions, please don't log off without asking your questions. Now is the time to start putting your final questions in the Q&A function. We are here to answer. So just a couple of tips. You heard a lot of information about the admission process, financial aid, and counseling and advising. So really important, check your COD email. You're getting a lot of information at that email account. As a first generation student, I know sometimes questions can feel uncomfortable, but make sure you're asking questions and not assuming things, right? Things might be similar to high school, but they are also very different. So whether you have questions about financial aid or just kind of personally navigating this college experience or academics, make sure you're asking questions. We talked about financial aid being something that you should submit every year, not just once, right? And then here's a tip. Make sure you are connecting on social media. Some of you may not have social media accounts. So even if you just kind of want to create a fake account or just account for school purposes, because you will get announcements through emails, but there's a lot of things that are posted on social media. So I encourage students that maybe are going straight into the workforce. Are there any types of associations within your industry that you could start following now so that you're learning about opportunities in that field? Do you have maybe a dream school in mind that you want to transfer to? Could you start following them on social media so that you're seeing maybe what transfer information they're posting? I follow the Illinois Student Assistance Commission online, and these are people that are assigned to our district of COD. We have 2 or 3 people assigned per year that they help students and their families fill out the FAFSA. They work with our financial aid office as well. And so a lot of times they post scholarship opportunities, or this is just one more resource that you'll have at your fingertips. So with that, I want to congratulate you for being the first in your family to attend college, or maybe the first in your family to go to college in this country. We know it's quite the journey. And so we want to leave you with just some tips from our ambassadors. So ambassadors, if you could share your wisdom, what would be one piece of advice that you would share with students that are starting college at COD?
I can start off real quick. My biggest piece of advice would be to get involved. There are so many opportunities for students to get involved on campus. I am going to put a little bit of a plug here for the Student Ambassador Program. But if you would like to kind of do a lot of these Zooms or tours of the campus and get either a free Speech 1100 class or a 3 credit hour stipend for any other class towards your degree program, we would love to have you, and the application is on the website. But there are so many different opportunities for you to get involved, and for me, that's how I've met Ashley and Luis, along with my best friends at the college I've met through the ambassador program.
I guess I'll go next. I guess for me, I definitely think about, so school going to high school versus going to college is a very different animal. I know for me, it was a really big thing of making sure I managed my time properly. When I first started at the college, I made the mistake of thinking that it was going to be exactly the same as high school. And it's very similar in the sense of getting the chance to go ahead and learn new things and meet new people, but also make sure you don't overload yourself. They're absolutely correct when they go ahead and they say, take care of your mental health. It does affect your schooling. Um, Definitely take the time to ensure that you warm up to the classes. Don't jump too far in because it gets hard to come back from that. So take your time, make sure you use the resources that are available to you, and they will not lead you astray.
And for me, the piece of advice that I'd like to give is to not procrastinate. Because I know that when I first joined the college, I put myself in a lot of things, in a lot of clubs. I just put myself in a bunch of things when I got here because I wanted to do so many things, but I procrastinated and I got behind in a lot of my work. I got behind in a lot of my clubs, and I just had to, there was this period where I just had to just get everything together, and it was really stressful. And just don't procrastinate. It's better to buy a planner or something, get a schedule going because it really does help a lot. And if you start developing these habits now, it's going to eventually help you in the future.
Those were great tips. Thank you. And thanks for all of you for being so gracious with your time and being on this call. We want to, as a COD family, we want to welcome you and we hope to see you soon. Congratulations as you start this journey. And please do not hesitate to reach out if you have any questions. Have a good night, everyone.